So the grid is now being cleared. And just take a look at the background there. You can just see how heavily the rain is falling. Let's take a look at the Fuso start grid for race 2. Jamie Whincup will start on pole position, just reconfirming there. He made up 19 places yesterday. Rick Kelly, by way of getting that 3rd place, has now had 8 out of 9 top 3 race finishes. He'll start alongside his teammate. Some great names have popped up across this weekend. Lee Holdsworth, one of the young guns, is having a terrific weekend. Paul Morris, wow, what a race he had yesterday. Moved up from 24th to 8th. And Max Wilson will start from position 9. He made it his way up from 23rd. And Shane Price, yet again, continues to look good. His first ever V8 Supercar top 10. Again, Neil Crompton, are we taking a look midfield here because of the conditions and of the spray and the visibility? These guys caught down here are going to have their work cut out for them.
Yeah, and just had a look outside a moment ago, and it appears to be getting worse. And yesterday, by this point, the rain had really dumped, and then it was a question of whether the dry groove would appear. There was a little bit of wind blowing, just a very gentle breeze and no further rain. But right now, they're still heavily enshrouded in mist. And so all these fellas that we're looking at here on the Fuso grid, they will be buried in about 4 seconds after the start of this motor race in a big, murky, brown grey mist and kind of bumping and grinding almost braille-like around this 3-kilometre course. And that's where the big gaps appear. It's in the first couple of laps in a wet race where you get all this margin. And so for those in the first 2 or 3 rows of the grid, they're laughing. What a tough break for guys like Jason Richards and Todd Kelly yesterday. Both of them off the road. Todd running into the back of Garth Tander. Jason making a mistake down at turn 11. Subsequent mistakes for Todd. Will Davison had contact and damage on his car. Almost without exception, Matthew, the vast majority of the field had a story to tell. I've got a list of people here, and of the 31, I reckon the best part of maybe 23 or 4 of them had some kind of an incident or contact or some big story to tell. And really, those that didn't were those that succeeded. Jamie Whincup and Stephen Richards.
Some just copped it, and it just kept copping it throughout race 1. Okay, the details for this: 120 Ks, 31 starters, that's 40 laps. This is a 3-kilometre circuit. They need to complete 30 laps before it can be declared at 75% of race distance. The pit window, watch them go here. Laps 5 to 28. That will be so crucial for races 2 and 3. And the weather, drizzle mostly sunny. I can tick the drizzle box, don't know about the other one, but track temperature 12 degrees. And it was just so fascinating to watch the dry line appear yesterday afternoon. Hang on a second, there's a bit of sunshine there on Will Davison. So it is beaming through. The Jim Beam racer, DNF yesterday in race 1. He was one of 4 guys who failed to finish. Greg Murphy, Andrew Jones and Russell Ingle were the other ones. So just to throw something else into the mix, now we've got a bit of sunshine peeking through their windscreens.
Well, I officially cannot keep up with the weather today. I put my hand up right now and say that anything is possible in the next 1 hour of this motor race. There's James Courtney.
You're absolutely right, Neil, about this weather. It's unbelievable, isn't it? And the sun's starting to sort of peek through, but the ambient temperature is 3 or 4 degrees cooler than yesterday. Because of this cool air, Gary Rogers Motorsport have taken the step of completely blocking the brake ducts off with gaffer tape on the Lee Holdsworth car.
Wow. They better hope that it doesn't dry up too much, because that'll make massive front brake temperature. So they're gambling on it being very wet. And of course what they're looking for there is to keep heat in the brakes. The brake temperature radiates through the rim, which gets into the carcass of the tyre and keeps the tyre warm. A couple of interesting strategies that were played out yesterday. Boy, did Mark Skaife have a shocker. I think it might be safe to say he's done an awful lot of motor racing, 20 years of it in the Australian Touring Car Championship, but that could well have been his worst day at the office on a wet track at least.
Well, I got to tell you, I haven't spoken to Skaife since, and there's a very good reason why. Because I know what he's like in that kind of mood. I think by our count, he went off 7 times. And he wasn't alone. That's about the only bit of good news. But it was just really one of those days. And that's the thing about this circuit. When it unfolds or unravels for you, it's really hard to pull it back together.
There was a bit of controversy late yesterday afternoon in the paddock about whether or not James Courtney did get into Craig Lowndes going into turn 10. Certainly Craig felt that that was the case. The stewards did look at it and they ultimately decided not to take any action. But it's continued to be debated in the pit paddock and possibly will be for some time.
Matty, you weren't brave enough to go and talk to Scafey, so I went and spoke to...
You're bigger than I am.
Yeah, that's true. I went and spoke to Starry. He said that the car was too stiff for the conditions yesterday. They've made some monumental changes, so Scafey fans may have something to smile about in race 2.
Yeah, let's hope so. You shouldn't turn up to a celebratory weekend, celebrating 20 years in the game, and be dealt that kind of luck. Jamie Whincup will start on pole position. Alongside him is Stephen Richards.
The weird thing about this is even though 2/3 of this field tests at Winton, they invariably test in the dry. So all bets are off when you get a day like race 1 yesterday and a day like today. So much of your data goes out the window. You know, Holden Racing Team fans may be puzzled. Well, gee, these guys spend a lot of time up here. Why haven't they got the answers to those conditions? Because they never spend any time in it.
Grid is set, grid is set.
Great crowd in. They will come in any conditions to watch the main game here, the V8 Supercar Championship, the second race. Who will get the foot down? Oh, Stephen Richards caught in a hole. Caught in a big hole, and they tried to swamp. Looks as though Lee Holdsworth in a bit of trouble as well. So Whincup will have pressure into turn 1 from Richards, who gathered it together into turn 2.
Oh, Jamie, very sideways on the exit of turn 2. Stone cold tyres. And it's so difficult in that mid-pack to see where you're going. Never seems as bad looking from outside in with our cameras, but when you're in the car in those conditions, it's unbelievably difficult. That's what it's like. John Bow on the outside here at turn 5. He had some contact on a couple of occasions yesterday, had a difficult race, spoke with him last night. Everybody protecting their line going into turn 7. Shane Price up the inside. Lee Holdsworth got a bad break off the start there as well. He went backwards, a lot of wheel spin, and they swamped him down to turn 1. This is turn 9 onto the old back straight. They're at the northernmost point of the racetrack. Morris side by side with Max Wilson, crisscrossing each other under brakes for turn 10. Yesterday there was quite a bit of trouble here, and there's more trouble today.
Wilson and Morris, contact. Look at the clay, the mud, the dirt. It's just off the side of this track. You go off by inches, you'll keep going. Good attack here by Jason Bargwanna, taking a look at Lee Holdsworth.
Mark Scafe's having a bit of a battle out there as well at the moment. They are slipping and sliding all over the place. There is a bit of sunlight, but the track very wet. The gaps have opened up massively. It's Stephen Richards, the race leader, nearly a 1 second margin from Jamie Whincup. Stephen Johnson is third. No, he's not. He's just lost that spot to Garth Tander. And Rick Kelly's up the inside now of Stephen Johnson as well. Side by side on the old pit straight. Kelly well positioned. And McConville's in there as well in the super cheap auto entry. So a great run for Cam.
Take that all the way back to turn 1 where Junior Johnson slid the Jim Beam racer around and around. Just got a little bit wide and they pounced. Kelly went through. McConville got him 2 turns later. Hasn't Stephen Richards gathered it all up perfectly after the start where he caught a little bit slow and then had to drag race himself against Whincup?
I thought he played a very good game yesterday, Stephen Richards. It was a smart call with he and his engineering group to manage their tyre situation as they did. He didn't really make any mistakes and he just played himself right up to the front of this race, and it was probably a good confidence boost for him. It hasn't been an easy start for him adapting to a new team and a new car this year. Now he finds himself well in command. And look at the guys at the front of the field who've got the clearer view of the racetrack. They are just bolting up the road. Those that are down the order at the moment are really having their hands full. Courtney on John Bow here. They're negotiating the braking area for turn 11. And James doing some Morse code on the back of John's bumper bar.
A little bit of push and shove. One of the youngest in the field versus the oldest man in the field.
The order with a 1.4 second margin. Stephen Richards over Jamie Whincup, Tander Kelly. Here comes Courtney now. Inside of turn 1, displacing. Bow moves up to 8th. Richards, Whincup, Tander, Kelly, McConville, Johnson, Bright, Bow, Courtney, Holdsworth. That's the 10. So Holdsworth went backwards, and here he is battling at the moment with Jason Bargwanna, and you can see some rain, light rain again on the lens of a camera up there at turn 3. They run significantly downhill on the run there to turn 4. Very easy to fall on the wrong side of the ripple strip down there. Then this long left-hand sweeper, which in dry conditions was negotiated about 180 kilometres an hour on the way in, but today you could wipe 40 to nearly 50 Ks off that.
WPS in-car camera for Jason Bargwanna. They've been squabbling over 11th and 10th. Bargs and Lee Holdsworth. There's inches in it under braking.
Tander's on the march. Sector split to the end of the first sector. He's very quick, the fastest man so far, and Stephen Richards responding with the fastest second sector split. The reason for that, tyre pressures and temperatures and brakes are now starting to come up to a normalised temperature. They'll be starting to find, can you believe it or not, a little bit more grip.
Up to 180 kilometres an hour on the approach to turn 11. So many people had troubles there. Todd Kelly, for one, would probably never want to see that turn again. After race 1, he just kept spearing off and spearing off.
It's very difficult to describe just how treacherous these conditions are. Remember, these cars have massive amounts of horsepower, massive amounts of engine torque. You touch the throttle, you breathe on the throttle, and they just erupt in the rear end, and in a heartbeat you can find yourself pointing in the other direction.
Jamie Whincup has a 2-second deficit at the moment to make up on the man in front of him.
Richards is slowly increasing that lead. Fastest lap of the race on that last lap of 37.3. He's got 2 seconds over Jamie Whincup. Here are the gaps. Tander, 3rd position. Rick Kelly's teammate in 4th. Failed the wiper on the #1 car yesterday, so that made life hard for him. And it's the first time this yesterday that I've seen Garth Tander pretty cranky at the end of the day. Even though he recovered well and got points, he was definitely not thrilled about the contact between himself and Todd Kelly.
Seeing a replay at the start. You see Max Wilson just dive around to the left there.
They're all ducking and diving to get around Lee Holdsworth, who made a tardy start. Look at the visibility there.
By that stage, Stephen Richards had got himself back in order, and by turn 3 had negotiated the lead. Holdsworth managed to dig himself out of a hole too. This is Garth Tander, who's in 3rd position.
That gives you great
job, GT. Nice and smooth, mate. Nice and smooth.
Great indication of what it's like in the jostle in those opening couple of corners in the first few laps. It's what it's like. You're slipping and sliding and you're trying to make gains. You get little nudges in the back of the car, the side of the car, scape off the road again. I heard him talking about the fact that he couldn't believe his luck. So he's gone off down at turn 11, back on again at 12. This is where a lot of the trouble was yesterday. Look at the amount of dirt, debris, mud, gravel that's on the road down there. It's terrible.
It's been extraordinary. That's been the Achilles heel for the Holden Racing team across this weekend. This should solve the problem. Well, just shot straight off. And he was very lucky to get out of there. He's probably lucky that it has been raining so heavy, because yesterday when his teammate went into there, he had to get pulled out of there twice. And unfortunately, Mark Scape has found that way back onto the circuit more than once this weekend.
1:36.68 Stephen Richards. Fastest lap of the race, 2.5-second margin. Todd Kelly's done the best sector split to the end of sector 1. He's 15th at the moment, trying to march forward. Mark Scape's recognition of the drama then was such that as he started to enter the gravel trap, you saw him pick up the opposite lock, flatten the throttle to try and keep the momentum in the car to get out of the gravel trap, and he kind of saved himself. Conville catching a huge amount of turn-in oversteer on the way into the corner then. That was turn 10, opposite the pits. He's 5th. This is the oldest car in the field. And news, if you didn't catch it yesterday, for Super Cheap Auto Racing, owned by Keys and his son Paul Wheel. They've sold that operation to John Marshall, father of Marcus Marshall, who's done V8 Supercar Racing and previously campaigned in Champ Cars for Team Australia and Derek Walker overseas. The No Limits Group have bought this team. Keys will stay on in a handover scenario through till the end of the year, but an ownership change for one of the key franchises in our business.
Stephen Johnson started 6th, got up to 3rd, then got swamped, and he's back to where he started for this race. In front of him is Cam McConville, and behind him is Jason Bright. There it is, Fujitsu Ford, car 25.
Tander's done the fastest lap of the race, a 36.1. and the new fastest first sector split for Stephen Richards. So Stephen responding, and they're slowly starting to pick the pace up. It's certainly not what you'd call a dry group. It's less wet right where the wheel tracks are. You can see they're all driving in those two wheel tracks at the moment.
Did you just say less wet?
Yeah, I know. Is that a
driver term?
Yeah, it is, because you'll think I'm insane.
No, I know you're insane.
But that's the way that we describe it. So and then they'll be starting to talk on the radio now to their engineers about, look, it's a little less wet here and there, but what we'll do is we'll wait until we find a bit more grip, and then they'll start discussing tyre options. But it's a long way off at this point. But you certainly couldn't describe any of it as being dry. It's just not quite as much water in some places.
You haven't convinced me either way.
I'll write you a short essay.
You're never going to be a weatherman.
Now, you slagged my weather predictions yesterday, and it was so slippery and so wet and so ugly. Everybody told me, Brad Jones and Mark Scaife gave me a huge cup under the ear on Friday, said it wouldn't rain on Sunday. Have a look at this.
No, it's not raining. The fastest lap has just been completed again by Garth Tander. Him and Stephen Richards have been trading some pretty sexy times on the scoreboard. And Jason Richards here has a bit of a handful with Mark Winterbottom and company.
35.95 for Garth Tander, fastest lap of the race, lap 6. And again, Stephen Richards responds with the fastest split to the end of the first sector. The margin stabilised now, first to second.
Richards, then otherwise I would have got cleaned up.
Sounds like...
Great, mate. Plenty of time. Nice and patient.
Mark Winterbottom. Clinton in the background just saying plenty of time, be patient. I think quite a number of drivers will have had some serious counselling overnight because of the number of incidents yesterday. Their team managers, team owners, team engineers kind of saying, guys, you know, it's 40 laps.
Jamie broke it yesterday, broke the drought for Ford quite literally here at Winton. And now this is the battle for second and third. I can tell you that Garth Tander's times have been very sexy. He continues to post the fastest time, 1:35.95.
We're now in the window for the compulsory pit stop. No one flinching at this stage. Fastest lap of the race, Tander, 35.95. Margin 3.1 seconds, Stephen Richards to Jamie Whincup. It's just stabilised a little in the last couple of laps, although in this last lap, Stephen's just opened slightly. Rick Kelly punching in the fastest first sector split on this lap, so he's starting to find his feet. Garth engrossed in this great battle up there at turn 7 with Jamie Whincup. Looking further down the order, Cam McConville, position 5, continuing to do a great job. Then Stephen Johnson, Jason Bright, James Courtney up to 8th, having started 17th. Then John Bauer, great run from JB. Lee Holdsworth 10th, he slipped a little off his starting position. Bargwana, Todd Kelly.
Up a bit behind you, gap 3 seconds.
Phil Key talking there to Stephen Richards.
Music to the ears, isn't it? Gap 3 seconds. All the way back to Jamie Whincup that you can see. This is a fascinating little battle. I like the look of this one, Cromley, because Tander, as we've said, has been right on the money in terms of pace.
Let's have a listen to a slippery wet lap round this racetrack on board with Garth.
Turn 5. To the top of the circuit, turn 7, into the left-hander. Mistake there from Jamie.
evidence of sunlight there. You see when that little mistake was made by Jamie, it immediately gave Garth the incentive. He straight away went into attack mode down at turn 11, started to look for a spot. Now he finds it on the inside at turn 1. Tander through. And the rear of the car just wasn't coupled up enough there for Wincup. In a couple of spots, he came off the turn 12 with too much oversteer, but he couldn't get the car turned in down at 10 as well, and that was the initial incentive for Garth.
That was the final incentive, was that one at the exit of turn 12, just allowed him to put the power down along the main straight, grab him at turn 1. So Garth Tander moves up to second position. Stephen Richards is our race leader.
Did you listen to just how delicate the throttle usage was for Garth, as it would be for all of these key guys? They're using the tiniest and lowest fractions of throttle percentage, just guiding the car out ever so gently. When he came onto the old back straight off there in second, the second, third, fourth shifts were all wheel spin. Bang, 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 the thing just slithering down the road. Rick Kelly fastest lap, 35.4, and he's closing because of that battle between Wincup and Tander.
Taking a look at a little battle group that is at the back end of the top 10, and John Bow there in 9th position. Behind him is Lee Holdsworth. You're on board with Jason Bargwanna, who's 11th. And Bargwanna overlaps 8 and 9.
One race, Jamie, to try and keep doing a good lap.
Has punched out a 10th of a second and a 2/10 of a second lap better. John Bow, 3-time winner here, 1988, 95 and 1998. Been coming here for close to 3 decades. This will be his last weekend. Out the back of the WPS car, looking at car number 22 of Todd Kelly. Just see how close it is in that group. They're looking at catching.
Be patient, mate. Be patient. You'll get it.
Bright and Courtney. Patience is the word for Todd Kelly.
And up the inside for Todd, he gets him at turn 1. We heard Todd yesterday say, I needed a bit of talking to. So he was asking Matthew Crawford after his incidents yesterday, get in my head and slap me around, because drivers occasionally need to be coached through this. They're pumped up, they want to make places. And that was a good move then from Todd. There is a better drying line beginning to appear, and lots of conversations about whether or not they need to start thinking about slicks, but I'd say it's still pretty early at the moment. We're only 10 laps into this race.
Is that a dry line or a less wet line? Mark Skate is the first man into pit lane.
Those slicks. Yes. Yep. Well, Mark's playing a pioneering game, but he can afford to, because he's down the order. Higher risk might give him a greater yield. He knows that he's nowhere at the moment.
Watch the blend line, mate. Watch the blend line.
The blend line's the yellow painted line you'll see on the pit lane exit. It's been extended this year.
You buy yourself, so wall up.
Another place gain for Todd Kelly, and Lee Holdsworth the victim there. So Kelly now moves up to 10th. His next man inside is John Bow.
Now, if Mark's picking the weather from the southwest well here, he's the first on to slicks. The racetrack could open up to him, but we could have a repeat of yesterday's problem, a dry groove that you can't step out of.
Quite visible there down the main straight. Will Kelly go for Bow here? Yes, he will. Whoa, a little too much. Clunk. And now Lee Holdsworth gets a spin, and the victim, John Bow. Off the wall, off the wall. Oh, dear.
Well, guys, you were spot on about tyres. Those teams that are just down the list a little bit, and Craig Lowndes just pulling in at the moment. He is going to slick tyres as well. So far, you've got Scapey out there on slicks, and now Craig Lowndes as well.
Go, 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 go.
Max Wilson went in.
Going pretty slippery out there. Rain light off, and you've just got to go up here now.
So did Jason Richards. One of the Jim Beam cars is in. That is Will Davison.
Okay, mate, go, go, go. Fillow's clear, Fillow's all clear. Turn your rain light off, mate. Rain light off, please. About 6 cars out there on dry tyres. Get some heat into the base. Do your best. We've got a good chance here to do all right.
There appear to be more people playing the slick game now, and that'll be because of the track condition. And depending on what it looks like to the west and southwest of the racetrack, they may feel as though the weather's lifting sufficient that we're going to... Look how dodgy this is on a slick tyre, cold slick tyre on that racetrack. Will is absolutely fighting that Jim Beam entry.
Oh, that's a real handful. This is going to be crucial. Our race leader comes in, Stephen Richards, on lap 13.
Rain light off, CPS light off. Clear exit.
CPS light's the bright light in behind the windscreens, and the rain light's the high intensity light in the centre of the rear boot lid.
Compatible timing to what happened yesterday in pit lane. Race leader Jamie Whincup, his crew did a 10.2 seconder. Richard's crew yesterday were around 11 seconds, and that was around there too. There is that dry line. Go off that at the moment, and you'll be doing what Will Davison did. Holding on for a pretty mean ride. Russell Ingall.
He's had a good whack on the bonnet, that car. Rusty's in behind John Bow at the moment. Race leader is Garth Tander. Fastest lap of the race on that very lap for Garth, so he's got a 2.5 second margin over Whincup. He's hanging out there for the moment, playing a slightly different strategy game. And the difficulty on this opening lap with cold slick tyres is that you've just got to step 1 millimetre in the wrong direction, like for example there on the outside of turn 4, and it's all over in a heartbeat. But these fellas are all well experienced. They know what to expect on a cold slippery tyre, and certainly this far we haven't seen anybody make that kind of blue.
Plenty of them doing it too, Neil. Tasman Motorsport, WPS, Will Davison, of course, we saw come in for his stop with slick tyres. The reason for the delay there.
Oh, sorry about that, Gibbo. Jason Richards is going to go into the wall.
And that sentence of mine was about 10 seconds too early, because Jason has done that, I'd say.
I've just gone out and had the wall, guys, sorry.
He's off on the outside of the turn 6-7 area.
Driver limit to Jason.
They're asking him to turn the pit lane speed limiter on, just to limit the amount of wheel spin and the number of revs that he can get on. Had he pitted and was he on slicks?
Watch the blend line, mate. Watch the blend line.
Yes, he had. So he was exactly what I was talking about. Too quick on slicks. He's dropped off the dry line, fallen into the wet stuff and gone away.
He's the first guy to go off at that part of the track. Two more crucial stops. Todd Kelly and James Courtney in and out together.
He got out of there. Good work. Front of the car looks a bit second-hand though.
He's going to trundle it around and bring it back in. So he's going to hold on, but that grass is so slippery up there, there's no way he can stop it himself. The wall had to do it for him.
I think Garth Tander's setting up for a stop here too. He's done a new fastest lap of the race, 34.3. Here's the replay of Jason Richards falling off on the braking approach to turn 7. Pretty heavy contact with that wall. That's going to be brake duct damage. Clearly the whole front bumper assembly and wings knocked around. Is this Tander? Yes, it is. And Rick Kelly's done the fastest lap of the race now, 34.1. He's got a 2.5 second margin. Whincup runs with him. That's good strategy. Voice of Rob Crawford.
Whincup gets out in front of Garth Tander. So they've got a problem there. They've gone back up. Tander.
Right rear. They have a problem with the right rear.
It was a crucial stop that ruined Garth Tander's weekend in Pukekohe. Stuck wheel nut. They had a problem with the right rear. They had to throw the car back up, back down, and you could see that Jamie Whincup managed to loop past him straight away. This is Stephen Richards, who back out has the effective race lead. Paul Morris is in there, and Whincup as well.
Now Rick Kelly is going to come in as well. You saw the Toll HSV crew immediately jump on another set of tyres. Remember, we're not seeing the Hollywood pit stop times because they're changing all 4 wheels and tyres, not just the 2 that we're accustomed to seeing. New fastest lap of the race, Murphy's done a 31.3. He's down in 20th place at the moment, and he was one that has taken the compulsory stop, no doubt onto slick tyres and demonstrating the pace in those tyres. Tander. Turn 8, nice groove on the right there where the tyres are warm and leaning on that side of the road. Same here at 9, but look how slippery it looks off the line. And There's Rick Kelly, race leader, 16.8 seconds. They've laid up the tyres, standing by, ready for his stop. They've obviously decided just to run him a little longer at the moment. Lee Holdsworth second. We're seeing very good sector splits from a bunch of people here at the moment. Stephen Johnson's quick, Simon Wills is quick, Greg Murphy's quick.
Now, you mentioned those pit stops have been longer than normal. Garth Tander certainly was. 18.03 seconds, more than twice anyone else. It hasn't helped him at all.
Traffic, mate, traffic.
Yeah, they obviously had a drama with that right rear that really snagged them and hurt. Johnson's done the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:30.13 for Stephen. And Simon Wills, who's in for Brad Jones, has done the fastest split to the second sector.
Paul Radicic, Paul Dumbrell, Shane Price. The lead has been chopping and changing. Stephen Richards and Jamie Whincup have been arguing and dicing, and I think Jamie's teammate Craig Lowndes has had trouble there at turn 1.
Todd Kelly. So what happened to Lowndes? Did he do it on his own, or was he helped down there at turn 10? Tander's done the best split to the end of the first sector at 27 even. Whincup responds with a great split to the second sector as Rick Kelly, the race leader, with a 31-second lead, peels off for his slick tyres.
That was much better for the Toll HSB team. Now, where does he come out?
Okay, GT's just about to come past us now.
There's Richards, the race leader. There's Whincup in second. Rick Kelly has come out in third. His teammate will be behind him, Garth Tander.
Front bar 4.3, rear bar 3.9.
So Eric Pender telling Rick Kelly what anti-roll bar settings he's looking for, but Tander will lead him up while Rick's on cold tyres. And Rick does not have time at the moment to fiddle the bars into position. He'll get to that in the next lap or two. Oh, he's going to go wide there at 4. Rick Kelly made a mistake and ran wide down there at 4. That cost him time.
Neil Tasman Motorsport have parked the Jason Richards car, basically due to the short nature between rounds. They'd rather spend the time making sure it's right for race 3 and also the next round. So they've parked it because this race they're out of the points.
There is one very fast red car moving through as James Courtney has a look on the inside. This is one of the super cheap cars of Cam McConville.
This is up towards...
Oh dear, and Lee Holdsworth. Big impact, front and rear. Cam McConville still out there spinning around on the grass.
This will be a full course yellow safety car will be deployed for this one for certain. That's a lot of damage on Lee's car. I can see him moving in the cockpit. Rear of the car is a heck of a mess, and it's nosed up in the wall there. And McConville was off as well. He was 7th, obviously stepped off the group. McConville's down there on the exit of turn 7.
You okay, buddy? Are you okay? I think so.
Oh, that's major damage.
And remember, this team just went through a monster rebuild for Dean Canto's car after New Zealand. Gary Rogers and his crew will be heartbroken.
Recovery team's gone into place. What happened? Some ugly scars on the left side of the wall there that you can see just to the left of the car. So I'd say he's gone in, backed it in heavy. This ended up spinning around, but...
Yeah, this is in the area of turn 4. Running down the hill. New fastest lap of the race, Stephen Richards. 2.2 second margin before the yellow flag.
I was going to make the point that Todd Kelly was flying before that. He's in 6th position. Just before that safety car period, he was knocking in consistent fast lap times in the 126s.
These fellas put in a monster workload between New Zealand and this race, resurrecting the Dean Canto car. Now they've got to go through the same process for Lee Holdsworth.
It's been a yo-yo ride, hasn't it? Really riding the fortunes of both guys. Up and down. Holdsworth was 6th in qualifying, 5th in race 1.
So the safety car, the WPS safety car, intervening now, picking up the field with Richards leading from Whincup. Lee Holdsworth being taken to the safety intervention vehicle and on his feet. That one will hurt. That's a big impact.
He's pretty gingerly walking along there. They're having to look after him. a lot. Not good signs. He's a fit young man, but he's in a bit of trouble at the moment.
Let's see whether we can find out a bit more about this incident. Now we're looking from the rear of Cam McConville's car. Look up to the back of the shot here. Exit of turn 4. What is there to see? And you see that way off in the distance, that is the Valvoline Cummins car rotating rearward, and he's gone rearward into the wall, which if you've got to go into the rotten thing, then that's definitely the way to do it. But the back of that car is destroyed.
The evidence is plastered all across the concrete wall just to the left of the car there. Big nasty gash into the paintwork on it.
And I'd say that that's going to be both rear rails, the whole rear section of the car. It will have damaged the floor and the inner guards and wheel wells and all of the diff housing and associated apparatus, and basically everything rearward of the B-pillar on that car is going to need to be replaced. It might be the end of that car. Turn 4. Yeah, it's the old turn 2. When we used to run on the old circuit here, it's just running down the hill. And remember I mentioned a little earlier in this race that if you get it wrong, invariably when you step too far sideways on the exit of turn 3, there's painted white lines and concrete there. You get sideways and you slide to the wrong side of the ripple strip going down to turn 4, and you can't recover, and that's possibly what's happened here.
Well, remember we saw Will Davison on his first lap coming out there, just came down the hill after turn 3, and it was a handful all right for him. So Lee's obviously carried a lot more pace into there.
You can see there, see it's downhill, painted white line on the exit, and
short runoff.
Yeah, in fact, he hasn't made the exit ripple strip there at 4. There's a graphic indication of the dry groove on the racetrack, and the car, the little witness marks there in the background where you can see that it's rotated off and found the wall.
And look how far it's thrown it back.
Yeah.
It's thrown it back, a good couple of metres after the impact.
That little shot there, though, on the left showing the dry groove on the racetrack pretty much tells the story. It's actually drier. It's a better race line than we had yesterday, and we've still got just a little more than half the race to run, so the pace will continue to pick up. But when you come off the previous corner where the ambulance is at the moment, it's very easy to step wide. That's why there's so much dirt displacing the grass there. People run wide all the time where the intervention vehicle currently is. And as you look even further to the left of that, you can see lots of people make mistakes as they come off the exit of turn 3. And as you come down the hill, you often find yourself sliding on that dirt all the way down. There's the exit ripple strip at 3. And it's a popular place to make a little mistake here on this racetrack. In dry conditions, when you head down there, you're doing about 140 kilometres an hour heading into turn 4. So that would have been best part of 110 odd kilometre an hour incident for Lee. Sad to see a car with that much damage. The good news is the driver's out. Can't believe that he's smiling. That's the team owner, Gary Rogers. Former driver of note, did a lot of sports sedan and touring car racing himself for many years, and he knows what it's like.
I reckon Lee would have copped a pretty nasty head whip. They wear the head and neck safety device.
Yeah, it does give some protection, but it doesn't offer as much as your head goes backwards as it does going forwards. Obviously, when you look at one of them up close, there's the whole rear section of it that your helmet rests on, but there's still a good inch or so movement. And the seats are much, much better at catching the drivers these days than they used to be. But he's obviously not feeling too flash at the moment, so we hope that he's okay. Gives us a chance to just have a think about what's going on in this motor race at the moment. And Stephen Richards is the race leader from Jamie Whincup, who was having a bit of a battle on his hands, but fast footwork from Triple Eight processed him a little quicker than Garth Tander. And the Toll HSV dealer team have been noted for their amazingly efficient pit stops, but that one for Tander was costly. But Garth is still in 3rd place from Rick Kelly in 4th. And the thing that really strikes me about their campaign so far this year, Matthew, is that the Toll HSV dealer team cars and drivers and team just continue, even on the days where it doesn't necessarily drop into their lap, to just bat away and continue to gather up good points. Yesterday was evidence of that.
two very good cars and two good drivers. This is the pit lane incident that was just so costly.
Watch the right rear for Garth's car. They're not doing it at the moment. Now they're working on it. Wheel comes off, wheel goes on. Maybe it didn't sit, no, you know what, it didn't go properly onto the pegs initially. So they had to lift it back up, seat the wheel, up it goes. Now they get the wheel seated and fastened and torqued. And away he goes. Now look at that, that's still fast, but by racing team standards, nothing like what you need.
The other thing was that we had something to compare it to right behind him in Jamie Whincup. They came in together. Whincup's was fast and clean and he was in and out. Came out in front by a good couple of seconds.
And all cars have now completed their compulsory pit stop. We're still in the active part of that window, and I can't imagine that anybody's on anything other than a slick tyre at the moment. So Lee Holdsworth is now in the ambulance, in great care, and we still need to do a little bit of work to remove this car as the field goes by. The danger here for these fellas, they're on slick tyres, not exactly a balmy day. The temperature's rapidly disappearing from those tyres and the brake system's in the car, so all of the drivers are being urged at the moment to try and hustle some temperature. They know that there's probably still another lap, well, let me think, 2 to 3 laps, I'd say, under safety car. We're going to have to be very careful when they go racing again that they don't find themselves falling off the road with no tyre temp. The view again, looking from turn 3 down the hill. Look how much grass is missing there, Matthew. It tells you the story, how many people run wide. And that's what will have caught Lee in the beginning. Sometimes you can even find yourself spinning because of the white line. You're on slicks, the track verge is a little wet. You go and turn in from your normal point, the rear of the car just disconnects and away you go. There's great runoff. Well, there's runoff at turn 3. But there's no runoff at turn 4 to speak of. There's a little bit of sand down there, which we saw, but there's not nearly as much as there is, and that's the reason why it made the very heavy impact down there at 4. Here we go again, different angle. This is actually going to tell us the exact story, I think.
And that was him on the way through, so...
Yeah, actually, but you saw before the camera was panning to the right, you actually saw his left rear wheel. It was well to the left of the white line down there, so he was already in a position where there was no grip available. And this is Cam McConville at turn 5. He came out of the dry groove we've spoken about and straight off to the outside of the sweeper.
He tried and tried. Look at this, he's trying to get back on, and then the rear of it went. There's a little bit of a dip there, bit of mud. Junk starts flying around everywhere, and by this stage, he was so far out in the grass, in the wet grass, that he had no hope of controlling it.
Paul Morris said in the driver's briefing on Friday that marshals needed to be aware that cars might come rejoining onto turn 7 from a weird angle, and they should throw the yellow, and other drivers should be aware that you might be attacked from the other direction. And the whole room of drivers turned around and looked at him and went, what was all that about?
Well, that's what it's all about.
That's right.
So
you watch this again.
Yeah, this is Lee Holdsworth going in.
He's in the middle of screen at the moment, moving to the left of screen. Focus on the left rear tyre, and you'll see that slowly but surely he finds himself at a turn-in point where he's got the loaded side of the car on the white line.
Right there.
See how far to the left he is? It's too far. Look at the dirt starting to fly. He turns in. Yeah. There's no grip on the dirt and the paint, and away he goes.
You see he's on the brake there too. So in between that... Oh, look at that. They haven't left him much room there, have they?
No, the more significant thing here is the weather up into the southwest.
Things
I think it's going to get wetter out there based on what we thought we saw there from the cloud. So
you know what, that looks pretty obvious, but I'm not even going to try and guess what that means, whether it means it's going to rain.
Well, the weather comes from where we're about to see, which is round to the west and the southwest today, and that's looking to the east, it doesn't look too bad, but now we're looking pretty well directly south of the racetrack, and then as we look further across to the southwest...
Back to 60 kilometres an hour, we're going to have to temporarily block the circuit while we're doing this recovery, so just hold it at 60.
That's the voice of race director Tim Schenken. That's where the weather's coming from today. from the southwest, and it looks pretty murky, doesn't it? Off in that corner of the racetrack. And if you're familiar with Victoria, that's sort of heading down towards Melbourne and Seymour in that area, and that's looking along the pit lane.
Oh dear, look at it coming down now. It's bucketing down. All right, what's the plan now?
Get in front and increase the lead.
Stay on the road.
It's the standard plan. But it's much, much easier said than done.
Yeah, they're having a whole heap of trouble getting this out of here. Simply because of the position it's in and the damage that's been done. I think they might have a bit of trouble actually getting the hook point. So it may well
let's see, the cars have actually got some new straps in the rear of them, which we've had a look at in V8 Extra, to pull them out of these awkward situations. The problem is the back of the car is all but gone.
Yeah. Under safety car conditions here at Winton, and the rain has started to fall again while they continue to pull out Lee Holdsworth's car. So drivers have been called back in. Jason Bright's Fujitsu cars had a few problems getting
Clear to go.
back on. That's Alan Gers, Irwin Tools entry, sorry. And
Clear.
disaster zone there. So what's happened is Lee Holdsworth's car is now being loaded onto the back of the truck at the exit of turn 3. You can see the rain has now moved in, coming in from the southwest. It's starting to bucket down. They've had a bit of trouble getting this car out of that position. And as a result, under safety car conditions, teams have called in their drivers, gone back to wets. Dry line will disappear.
With caution, Alan, get some heat into these tyres. Safety cars possibly only got one more lap.
Just updating you on the situation of Lee Holdsworth. The Zinger replay will show why he ended up where he did, because this is where he was on the way in.
Watch
the rear left.
Yeah, left rear tyre is the one you need to focus on here. And you'll see that Lee turns in with load on the car, either on the white line or even just a little on the dirt here. You just start to see the dirt fly. There it is. So right at the point where he turns the car, and it sneaks away on him and oversteers, flicks the wall backwards. You can see in the distance, look way off in the distance down at turn 4. We're looking from the back of Cam McConville's car, and you see the Valvoline Cummins entry shoot through the back of the shot and whack the wall very, very heavily. And Lee Holdsworth has been placed in the ambulance, and he was on his feet. We hope he's okay. Obviously, they'll be having a long, hard look to make sure he's all okay. Meanwhile, Cam McConville ran wide, came out of that dry groove we've spoken about at the sweep at turn 5. Once he got onto this wet grass, he was all over the shop here trying to find a way back on up near turn 7. So there was that moment of chaos, and here's Cam trying to recover the situation.
Yeah, so Lee Holdsworth, as Neil mentioned, has been placed in an ambulance. He has a sore neck by the looks of things. He was on his feet but required medical attention. So he is headed back to the medical officers and is under good care. Let's get the word from Gary Rogers. Daniel?
Yeah, thanks, Matty. Gary down here waiting for this car to come back, but it's hard to see from our pictures what happened, but it looks like he just got out on the grass and then it was all gone.
Yeah, like there's not a lot you can see on the replay, but the bit you can see is a bit of youthful exuberance. I think he's come spearing around the corner and dropped the left rear off the side of the track, and in these conditions, you know, you just can't do that. But not much crying about it now. It won't do us any good. We'll just get our head down, our bum up, and get on with it.
Well, getting your head down has actually proved pretty right, because you found some problems with the car in between coming to the testing and now heading here. The cars were pretty good.
Well, more so with the VE, to be quite frank. I mean, we have had problems with that, but we've got on top of that. But Lee's car's been pretty competitive all year, and in fairness, he's driven it really well. He's only young. He hasn't done a lot of miles yet, but you know, it's just such a pain when you're gaining a bit of speed now instead of developing again. You've just got to go back to the repair bench.
Have we heard from Lee? Do we know if he's okay?
We haven't heard from him, but he won't be okay when he gets back here.
He's tough, isn't he? He's tough.
He's a hard man, Gary Rogers.
Oh, look up and see the see what's closing in.
Well, look up and you won't see very far, will you? Because the visibility's just vanished, and the rain Yeah, the lights are out on the WPS Chrysler safety car, and the rain has just made the place treacherous once more.
Now remember, Stephen Richards was leading the field. Then they had to dive back in, and everything's changed again. Jamie Wincup.
Richards is the first car on wet, mate. Richards is the first car on wet, so he's obviously a fair way behind at this stage, but we'll keep you posted, mate.
And that is marked up, talking there to Jamie Wincup, race leader, and Richards, who they're talking about, is 12th, first car on wets.
Lights are out on the safety car, obviously, mate, so be cautious how you restart, no balking, and just take a nice and steady, mate, on this slick track.
They're playing a gamble game here at the moment where they hope there's enough residual heat in their slick tyres, but gee, they'll have lost a lot of temperature through this safety car period.
Oh, you just see Jamie Wincup there. As the safety car peels off, Wincup's trying to control the Team Vodafone 888 Falcon. So off we go again. It seemed as though it was all sorting itself out, and then the weather closed in once more. Will Jamie Wincup be able to hold on to this in slippery conditions?
He just couldn't get the car turned both times then at 1 and 2. And here comes Tander down the inside. He looked vulnerable as he went through 2. He couldn't get the nose of the car where he wanted Jamie Wincup. Now he fights back on the run down to turn 4. Can't get it done. This is where the accident was. Tander just drops it back a slot as he approaches turn 5.
Rick Kelly's behind him. Behind Wincup, that is. Trouble again for the Super Cheap team, and Paul Dumbrell finds himself on the infield. First lap after safety car conditions is always the hardest.
And the progress of Stephen Richards is the interesting one in all this. Replay here of more trouble between turns 3 and 4. And was Dumbrell helped then? Possibly.
It was Dean Canto behind him. He was lucky not to end up.
Here's Richards.
Way of incoming traffic.
Smooth, mate. We have the weekend #1 at the moment.
And Richards, I don't think has made any ground at this point, but we'll wait for the sword order. He's on wet tyres. Those in front of him chose not to change. Misty rain on the front of the camera lens down there at turn 12. And the leader of the race with a 0.3 margin, Garth Tander. Wincup's recovered a bit here. As the temperatures come up on the tyres, he's able to run with Tander. But great opportunism from Garth Tander in the opening lap on those cold, slick tyres to grab a spot. And Phil Keat asking Stephen Richards to put the rain light on. When the wet tyres are on the car, you must have the high intensity rain light on. The lap time for Garth Tander on that last lap was a 1:26.7.
Neil, the weather's starting to clear. There's actually now the sun and blue sky, so it'll be interesting to see whether the wet weather tyre gamble has paid off. The boys at Goodyear will be happy, though. They're looking a little worried in pit lane. They bought 400 tyres to the meeting. They've only got 100 left.
You meant to say Dunlop. I think he's got a bit of water in his ears. Not alone this weekend.
Smart racing, mate. Smart racing. Stay on that dry line, please.
There's just been so little wet weather, as everybody in this country knows, that the wet weather tyre stocks have been huge. We're actually using some finally.
For debris on the track at 1, debris at 1.
That's Matt Nilsson's voice talking to Garth Tander. There's Tander, margin 0.4 of a second from Wincup. Rick Kelly is third. Johnson, Murphy. Can't see where this debris is that they're talking about. Stevie Richards has passed Todd Kelly, so he's moved up one spot on those wets. But if, as the boys suggested from pit lane, that there's a glimpse of sunlight out there, this will work badly for the former race leader, this man here, Stephen Richards. Oh, Bright's off on the outside of turn 4. That's where Lee Holdsworth went off. This is, if you weren't watching our coverage yesterday, the borrowed Brad Jones racing chassis, and Rick Kelly is off the road. And he's done it down at the sweeper, and he rejoins at turn 8. That's a weird one. He'll have to address the situation. He can't just sort of take advantage of that. It's something that's mentioned in the driver's briefing. So Kelly's gone off on the outside of the sweeper, I'd say.
Greg Murphy's behind him. So something has happened to Stephen Johnson there. Murph's got around Stephen Johnson as well. And now he'll want to get past Rick Kelly.
I tell you, he's having a better run today after... And he's actually having a bit of a... Sorry, I'm just stopping to gather my eggs here, but Greg Murphy had a shocker of a day yesterday, having a great run today, and this is a bit of sugar for him, but he's not happy with the fact that Rick Kelly's come back on in front of him after running wide at the sweeper.
DNF for the Tasman Motorsport car, 51 yesterday. Did it tough in qualifying. Could only get up to 22nd. But he's a fighter, Murph, and he's now caught in the front of the queue behind Rick Kelly. Zinger replay will show Shane Price all having trouble at this particular part of the circuit.
That's down at turn 11.
Turn 11. Now this is turn 4. And this will be the Fujitsu Racing.
And that's Bright running wide down at 4.
Pretty sure that was Greg Murphy's.
Yeah, it is.
In-car radio that we heard, team radio, and he was complaining there about what happened with Rick Kelly and Alan Gurr, the Irwin Tools entry. There's a bit of slip sliding away to get back on.
Problem with Murph, when he yells on the radio, he yells so loud, it scrambles your brain in the commentary box. You can't think. And Todd Kelly's got problems
there goes
on
baby
his car.
Coulthard.
And he's going wide at 5 as well, rejoins at 8. Not sure that there's much else they can do, you know, except they can't take advantage from it. That's what they've been told. There's the replay of the incident down at 3. Wow, a few rotations for Alan Gurr.
Full 720. Control, so this is looking out the back.
That's Dean Canto in behind him there, so...
Looking at Kappa Convolu's.
I wonder whether or not there was any contact between those two. Boy, it's all got a bit weird since a sprinkle of rain went onto the racetrack again. Fastest lap of the race, Garth Tander on that lap, a 1:26.4. Fastest sector split here for Jason Bright after the off. Here he is, heaps of dirt in the front of the car, and one of the Jim Beam cars, I think it's Will Davison, coming in for a tyre change, going back off slicks, correction, off wets, back onto slicks. James Courtney, car number 4, pitting for slicks also. There he is in the background.
Go. Pit lane's clear. Make sure your rain light's off. Rain light off. Go on, mate. All clear. Let's roll. All clear to exit, buddy. Straight out. Rain light off, please, James. Rain light off, mate.
Stone cold tyres there for James Courtney again, so it's a big mission now to get them cycled back up to a proper operating temperature. Will Davison rejoins on cold tyres. So Stephen Richards is still the leading protagonist on wet tyres, and he's 11th. Fastest lap of the race, Jason Bright at 26 even on that lap. He's 10th. Tander 1.3 second margin over Jamie Whincup. Kelly in 3rd, that's Rick, followed by Greg Murphy, Stevie Johnson, Craig Lowndes, Steve Owen, John Bauer, Russell Ingle, Jason Bright. The last lap for Stevie Richards was a 1:32, and the last lap for Garth Tander and blokes like Jason Bright was in the 26s, so the wets are not the thing to have at the moment. They're getting murdered. You know, it's just a gambling game. Absolutely no way of knowing what's going to happen here. When you look outside our commentary box at the moment and the sun's shining, and then you look to the southwest and it's scary again. 1:25.9 for Garth Tander on the very lap that we were riding with him. this is greatly frustrating for these guys as they have to jump backwards and forwards. Looking at the time comparisons at this very moment in time, Tander's just done the fastest lap of the race, a 1:25.9. He's on slick tyres. We know that Stephen Richards is on wet. He's the leading wet tyre runner. He's 11th. He's in the early 30s at the moment, so he's dropping 4 and 5 seconds, but we're getting mixed reports about the weather. Sunlight 1 minute, possibility of showers the next. It's a total gamble out there.
Absolutely right, Neil, and everyone's talking on the radio, as you said, saying, look, it's now starting to spin again in pit lane. I don't think Mother Nature got a good Christmas present or something or other, but it's all over the shop at the minute. Sunshine to the most side of the track, pit lane raining.
We had 17 cars on wet tyres under that safety car conditions. 2 of them have gone back to slicks. Davison and Courtney.
And the lead runners at the moment didn't come off them. So Tander, Wincup, Kelly, Murphy and so on are still on them.
Pit lane.
And is that Richo? Yes, in pit lane in the Castrol Ford. So
make sure your air jack happens down. Change your tyres and send you again.
they're talking
Your throttle position, pit lane speed.
asking him to put the all of the above. They've asked him to put the jack position such that they can change all 4 tyres. So they want the air jacks to pop out of the car, lift the whole car off the ground to put it back on slicks. So he was losing 4 and 5 seconds a lap on wets. And car 34, Dean Canto, gets a pit lane drive-through penalty for his role in the incident up at turn 3.
Here we go for Stephen Richards. Two-man operation on both sides of the car and controlling the car.
It's a lot of pain for Stephen and his crew, given that they were leading the race. They just flinched a little early to go onto those wets. Now they've had to go back onto slick tyres. Tander's the race leader with a 2.5 second margin over Jamie Wincup. Rick Kelly still in 3rd position. There's Tander. A glimpse there of Wincup in the background. Kelly, Murphy, Stevie Johnson, Lowndes, Owen. Good run for Steve Owen. John Bowe in the top 10 in 8th. Russell Ingall, Jason Bright. And here's the pit lane drive-through penalty being served by Dean Canto. And a fair bit of damage on the front right-hand corner of that car.
Started out as a pretty good weekend for Gary Rogers Motorsport, has come unstuck pretty quickly in race 2. Look at the changing conditions.
Blue, grey. Depends which way you point the car. At all points of the compass.
So we're looking at car 10 of Jason Barguana, the WPS entry. He's in 23rd position. So looking at the front of James Courtney. Oh dear, look at that. That's Max Wilson's mess. That's why for Max Wilson on the Zinger replay, went deep into the infield. And he's been out there playing in the mud.
That's what he scooped up in the process on the outside of the sweeper at turn 5, and a mechanical black flag for John Bowe in car 111. New fastest lap of the race, Rick Kelly. And they're watching the water temperatures closely on this car. And Max can't see. Have a look at the screen on the thing. All he's doing is smearing clay on there at the moment. 1:25.9 for Rick Kelly, fastest lap of the race. Mechanical black flag for John Bowe. Max Wilson can't see where he's going.
Yeah, you talked about Steve Owen before and a great result from him. I just went and had a chat to the boys. Very happy with how it's all going, but they feel the added pressure. They've not really been in this position before, sitting in 7th. When it comes to a pit stop, which they're getting ready now for wets, they're actually sort of thinking, oh, hang on a minute, we've got to be slick and quick. It's pressure time down here, and it's a good pressure to have.
Well, the Ford Performance Racing boys are just shaking their heads and throwing their hands up in the air. No sooner have they put Stephen Richards onto the slicks than it is bucketing down in pit lane. They don't know how to get it right.
Oh, you've got to laugh, haven't you, Brett?
I mean, some events just work like that. There was one at Bathurst a few years ago, and I recall Mark Scaife just went in and out of the pits. It seemed like 50 times. Every time he flinched one way, he needed to be on the other tyre, and it's just the luck of the draw.
So hang on, it's raining in pit lane. It's not raining there. Not hard anyway. that's only a couple of 100 metres away.
And this is exactly what the forecast was. Light showers in a period right through the day. And everyone keeps saying, well, what does that mean? Well, it means that, light showers. They'll come and go for the entire day. Garth Tander is the race leader. He's got a 0.7 margin. He's on slick tyres, and they've got good temp in them at the moment. Look at this down here at turn 10. It's on, and look at that. Look at that.
Nice work, Jamie. Nice work.
Great opportunism.
Nice and smooth, buddy.
Jamie Whincup has benefited greatly from the trouble that Garth Tander's found himself in. Definite contact in that group.
Well, that just changed everything because of the slippery conditions, and Tander found himself in a weird spot, boxed up by traffic at turn 10. Here it is again, and he's very unhappy about the fact that there's no blue flag telling Dumbrell to get out of the way. He's trying to push him out of the way. He dropped the spot to Whincup.
And then James Courtney also got in on the act as well, alongside Paul Dumbrell. I just wonder if there was contact, first of all, probably between Garth and Jamie Whincup. Regardless, Whincup has the race lead. You're looking at the race leader on lap 36 of 40. The second race of the fourth round of the V8 Supercar Championship has had a little bit of everything and then a bit more. The Stephen Richards gamble didn't pay off.
And he finds himself in 19th position as a result of the in and out process. Max Wilson comes in, and in fact they decide just to give the game away, to take all the clay and rubbish out the front of it. The water temperature will probably be going off the clock, and he can't see where he's going, so the washers in the wiper system not working, and now trouble here for Dumbrell. That's on the exit of turn 9 on the old back straight. What's going on with the front of that car?
Neil Crompton, the front of Max Wilson's car. Have a look at this. This is the telemetry. We've got the warning engine temperature, 110 degrees. We can see the temperature is 157. It climbed right over the Richter scale. That's bad for a V8 supercar engine.
It certainly is. It'll be boiling tea, so they rightly pulled the thing aside.
Look at the warning line down the bottom. Warning light. Flashing, flashing, flashing. This should give us an answer on Paul Dumbrell.
It must be pretty slippery out there. So Jamie Whincup and Garth Tander are continuing to dispute the lead. This is why we saw all that steam and garbage. And I think Tander has got Whincup back.
Got a new leader again.
And a pit lane drive through for car number 12, Andrew Jones.
So yet again the lead has changed. And Garth Tander's found pace.
So Andrew Jones on car number 20, that was the issue, and look at this.
Look at Tander, he's ripping through this at the moment. Now he's caught up behind Stephen Richards, who's down in placings. Just see Tander, this is when he got him at the Zinger replay, up the main straight.
Groovy move.
Oh, very, very.
Wow, on the outside of turn 1, and just gave a gentle little touch on the way by. That was pretty amazing move there from Garth Tander. Good car confidence, car working well.
Groovy and gutsy. Now he's got a bit of traffic in front of him.
Look at the weather.
I don't know how you can. It's doing my brain in. I don't know whether it's winter, spring, summer or fall. It's a little bit of all.
What a sentence.
Thank you. So 4 laps to go.
Patience. It's spoken to Richo. Just patience.
That's the
That was
overwhelming word that you hear out of the Toll HSV dealer team. Patience, patience, patience. They say it to Rick Kelly. They say it to Garth Tander. Their drivers have been listening. Trouble there on the exit of turn 2. It's been brilliant tit for tat. On the inside, Whincup has a look. On the other side, up over the ripple strip.
This reignited on the old pit straight when Tander, who'd been cautioned just to play the traffic carefully, Stephen Richards was mixed up in it, but he allowed, well, not through his own doing, Jamie Whincup to get right on the back of him once again, and he's all over him and having a look down here on the braking area at 11.
More traffic.
And it's traffic that's playing a role in this, and nose-to-tail contact because Winterbottom was mixed in it as well. That was what held up Garth Tander. It's game on as they come down the pit straight again.
The gap is 0.4 of a second. It's really nothing. Just a couple of laps to go. Whoever wins this will be the one who will deserve it and who can hold on to his senses and his car, because they're under pressure from all angles. Tander pulls away. He's got good speed in car 16.
An amazing sequence in the last lap and a half or so. Courtney's mixed up in it, but it's not for position, folks. He's down in 18th. Remember, they had to play the in-out game on tyres. Fastest lap of the race, actually, Dean Cando, a 1:25.2, and he's right down in the 20s at the moment. And those that are still on wets include Todd Kelly. Here's this move again down at the end of the front straight, turn one.
That's gutsy. That is so gutsy from Garth Tander. On the outside of Jamie Whincup. Watch this. He'll swing across to the right. Has to put the foot down. Big time move.
Finishing that sentence still on wets. Todd Kelly, Paul Radisich, Jack Perkins, Mark Scaife, Mark Winterbottom. That was the reason why Frosty was all tangled up and running a bit slowly there. He's on the wrong tyre.
And the two super cheap auto cars. So 3 wide into turn 1 for this mix.
This is messy, and it's allowed Whincup back into it again. And he's all over the back of Tander between 1 and 2. Does he look for a run up the inside into 3? There's a very distinctive dry line. Will Davison's in the middle of it. One of the Jack Daniels cars is there as well. It's car number 11. It's Jack Perkins.
Tander holding on. Not only fighting off Jamie Whincup, but trying to work his way through other traffic as well. This is the hard way to win a race in the V8 Supercar Championship.
And Scaife gives them space, but Will Davison still mixed up in it all. Tander's got huge pressure from Whincup. Traffic's playing a huge role. They're up at turn 9. Whincup's got a bit of mid-corner pace on Tander. Uses the ripple strip on the exit. Whincup bounces off it like a motocross bike on a berm. Run down to turn 11 now. Courtney runs with them, but out of position in 17.
Whincup only has 2 more chances to sneak inside of Garth Tander. But it looks as though Garth is going to hold him off around the final turn. What a thrilling race. What a way to win it. Garth Tander fights hard.
GT, shut drive.
Superb victory.
Sorry, it was a bit more difficult than they would have liked.
It was hard.
There was not one blue flag for any of those wave cars. That's absolute horseshit.
It was brutal. It's a tough game. And they've swapped some pretty good punches. Congratulations to them in the Toll HSV dealer team, but also a great drive by Jamie Whincup.
And Rob Crawford, the team manager, was on the left. Race engineer Matt Nilsson was on the right. And Garth Tander very unhappy about the flag marshalling there, saying there were no blue flags with the traffic, and no doubt he'll take that up with race control. Kind of a shame in many ways that there wasn't a victory for both teams and both drivers in that race, because you couldn't fault the performance of Tander or Whincup or their teams. But tremendous performance from those guys in just the weirdest of conditions.
Weirder than yesterday?
If it's possible, yes.
I don't think there was anything weirder than yesterday. But Garth Tander has now won his 6th race of 2007. And overall, in terms of the weekend standings, I can tell you that Tander is second now overall on points behind Jamie Whincup, 44 place 39 in that battle. So things are looking on the positive side of things if you're a Ford fan. Whincup second, Rick Kelly third. Greg Murphy's put in a terrific drive to come up into 4th position after starting down the field, way down the back, because he had a DNF in race 1, and Todd Kelly inside the top 10. Those to finish inside the top 15 where the points are spread. Radisich, Price, Davison and James Courtney finished in 15th position.